Howdy, Space Rangers, Captain Phoenix here. Now, I watched the original Netflix Daredevil show for the first time this year, and I loved it. It very quickly and easily became one of my favorite TV shows of all time, and the last season was just peak fiction. As a non-comic reader, I felt so vindicated watching this show as it was the kind of show I wanted She-Hulk to be, albeit with a lighter tone. Here, do me a favor and watch this clip for me.
God knows I want you, but you don't get to destroy who I am. You will go back to prison, and you will live the rest of your miserable life in a cage, knowing you'll never have Vanessa. That this city rejected you. It beat you. I beat you. You keep my secret, and you won't harm Karen Page or fucking Nelson or anyone else. Because if you do, I will go after your wife.
That is one of my favorite TV/superhero clips of all time. The entire series was building up to that scene and the payoff was beautiful. Now, how would you feel if it was all suddenly undone in just one episode? Now, I am no stranger to horrible reversed endings, but the difference with Born Again is that it wants to continue the story the Netflix show left behind while also doing its own thing, and as such, it can't do much without returning to the status quo. That leads me to talking about the elephant in the room, the creative overhaul. It's kind of impossible to talk about this show without addressing that, and while I will do my best to judge this show on its own merits, I do think it's important to keep the overhaul in mind when critiquing it. For those who don't know, the original concept for Born Again was that it was going to be a full-on reboot of the character to fit in the MCU. None of the Netflix shows were considered canon at the time, and Born Again was essentially going to revive the Defender saga for a new audience. However, when statements and reveals of the show came out from the cast and crew, fans regarded it as a surf Dracula of sorts. Apparently, the show was going to take place during the 5-year snap time period, be 18 episodes long, feature only Kingpin and Daredevil, and be more comedic in its tone compared to the original show. More akin to She-Hulk without the fourth wall breaking. Fans were outraged at this reveal, and even most of the cast like Charlie Cox, John Berthel, and Vincent D'Onofrio hated it. This forced Kevin Feige to fire the original showrunners and bring in the Punisher and Loki showrunners to revive the series. However, most of the show had already been filmed, specifically episodes 2 through 7, so the new showrunners had to film around what was already there to save the series, and that's what makes me conflicted on judging it. As a Frankenstein show/product, it's amazing and the gold standard for how to do Frankenstein projects right. As a complete product that's supposed to follow up one of the greatest superhero shows of all time, well, to say it could have been better is certainly a way to look at it. Mind you, as someone who also doesn't like the whole creative overhaul drama, I hesitate to say that everything from the original draft sucked. Up until episode 6, it was a really good character drama show, and there were quite a few scenes in those episodes that made me emotional, like Hector Ayala's arc and the scene with Frank in episode 4. Heck, the fact that we actually got superhero cutscenes already makes this show and the original draft infinitely better than She-Hulk. However, that doesn't stop the overall product from being a bit messy. Before I talk about more of my issues with the show, I would like to mention some little things that I did like. I liked White Tiger and the Punisher's episodes. It was really nice to see Matt connect with other superheroes and vigilantes in the city, and even defend Hector in court. I do think that Matt is a grade A hypocrite for revealing Hector's identity though. Imagine if the roles were reversed. Matt, would you want your lawyer to impulsively reveal your identity without consent? Yeah, I didn't think so. Anyway, even though I have my complaints about those episodes, I still stand by them being good character drama. I do find it funny though that the fans were freaking out about the old script, stating that Matt wouldn't put on the costume or do any Daredevil action till episode 4, yet were praising this show for him still not having it for that same amount of time, minus the prologue in episode 1. There's surprisingly not a lot of Daredevil in this show, which is a critique I'll talk about in a minute. Another little thing I liked was Jack, aka Swordsman, making a return in this show and actually playing a part in the plot instead of just being a quick cameo. I liked him in Hawkeye and really enjoyed how that show subverted our expectations by not making him a villain. Here, Tony Dalton reprises his role, and much like every actor in this show, he kills it. I was actually really sad when I saw he was among one of the imprisoned in Fisk's basement. Of course, how could I not mention the last 2 episodes? It is honestly a miracle that those 2 episodes were as good as they were. I guess the new writers had the benefit of hindsight when filming the new scenes, cause the way the writing in the last 2 episodes ties up the whole season together is nothing short of talented and artistic. Matt's passionate monologue in episode 7 about trying to do things the way of the system but failing and addressing the issues the past episodes had retroactively fixed the show. In its penultimate episode. How do you even do something like that? However, for every praise there must come some critique. And yeah, I have quite a few. But to truly draw them out, we need to talk about what this show is trying to do. Daredevil Born Again, despite everything, is not season 4 of the Netflix show. It is a soft reboot that is continuing the story of the Netflix show, and much like all soft reboots, it needs to find a way to stand out. How does it do this? Well, we have some actual impressive stuff in the cinematography. This show utilizes color and aspect ratios in ways not even the Netflix series did, and it helps the 2 entities stand out from each other. However, there are some changes that make me scratch my head. The plot is a lot of meandering. We'll have some episodes that don't really connect to the larger overall story, like the bank heist episode or the one where we find out Muse's identity. That one is especially disappointing because Muse was being built up as the main villain of the season, only to barely get any screen time. We have 2 fights with Daredevil and then gets domed by Heather 2/3 of the way into the season. These are fine episodes on their own, but they don't feel like they carry that much weight, unlike the Netflix series which made you want to watch the next episode as fast as possible. All of this, of course, leads me to talking about my biggest issue with Born Again, and that is the fridging of Foggy Nelson, and the weird handling of Matt's character afterward. For those who don't know what fridging is, it's when a supposedly important or close character to the main character in a story is unceremoniously killed off solely to develop the main character. In episode 1 of Born Again, Foggy is killed off by Bullseye, and instead of lingering on this or getting time to mourn him, we immediately jump to a year later with depressed Matt, and I can't express how much of a dent this put in my interest in the show. Foggy was my favorite character of the OG show. The fact that he believed in the system and endlessly fought for the right way to do things to not break his will was inspiring. Now imagine how I felt when my favorite character gets axed off early and aside from one scene with Punisher, is not even talked about till the penultimate episode. Yes, those episodes do bring Foggy back in great ways, but if you're gonna fridge the guy, you should have made the whole season about his mourning and ended with Matt deciding to fight to keep his memory alive. The finale tried to do this, but there was little to no foundation for it.
So what now? Every day Bullseye goes to the chow hall, eats his slop. You know he gets to breathe the same air that you breathe. You feel good about that? He got life! How about old Foggy? He got life.
I threw Point Dexter off that rooftop. Karen, I wanted to kill him. The truth is, ever since Foggy died, I didn't know who I was anymore.
Foggy believed in you. Whatever you want to call yourself, whoever's behind the mask, behind your eyes. That's wrath, that's mercy, that's the dark and the light. He knew all of it. All of it. He knew you.
I could go more into how they did Foggy dirty, but other YouTubers like the Goldman do a much better job at an in-depth look at that. Regardless, fridging Foggy was a detriment to this show, not just for the story, but for the characters as well. With Foggy dead, Karen moves all the way to LA, and the character dynamics we had in the OG show, arguably its strongest aspect, are now gone. Matt has no one to talk to about his struggles because he surrounds himself with people who just wouldn't get him. I don't have the same connection for Cherry as I did Officer Mahoney. Kirsten will never be Foggy, and Heather is by far Matt's least interesting love interest, and I say that as someone who did not like Elektra at all. And speaking of Heather, not only do she and Matt have no chemistry at all, but she also just has some brain dead moments in this series.
I'm sure you can put Muse and Daredevil in the same category.
I'm not so sure that you can't. They're just these underdeveloped boys hiding behind masks, trying to make it look like something more sophisticated.
It's pretty dark of you. I mean, I think they're completely different animals.
You weren't there, Matt.
I know, I'm just saying that Muse tried to kill you. Daredevil saved you.
I saved me. They were both out there for themselves.
The new cast kinda sucks, but I do understand why they didn't want to keep the OG one. I really do. This show is a soft reboot after all, and it needs to stand on its own, but my god did they sacrifice a lot to do so. This leads me to my next major issue, and that is Matt's characterization. After Foggy's death, Matt becomes depressed and hangs up the Daredevil cowl for about a year. This season is all about Matt finding himself and becoming Daredevil again, thus born again. But not only is Daredevil's rebirth kind of anticlimactic, but we've seen this arc before in a much better season. Season 3 of the Netflix series sees Daredevil give up on his regular life only to realize that he needs it to keep himself in check. Much like Born Again, Matt suffered lost faith in God, and wanted to only dedicate his life to one thing. It's the exact same arc, only now the personas have switched. Hell, much like Season 3, we even have a whole episode about transferring a witness, and we need to keep them safe on the streets because Kingpin's men are about to kill him. It's the exact same story, dog. The issue with that arc this time around is that because Matt is living the lawyer life, there's a significant lack of action. The show sacrifices one of the best aspects of the Netflix show to focus purely on character drama in its first half, which is such a strange decision to me. Even the goddamn Netflix show had at least one fight every episode. It knew how to balance the Matt Murdock and Daredevil aspects of itself. The premiere prologue and finale more than make up for this, but everything in the middle is kind of lackluster by Daredevil standards. And one more small thing I want to call attention to is the ending of episode 8. Matt takes a bullet for Kingpin, even though it makes no sense for him to do so. His beef was with Vanessa at the time, and letting Wilson die would have legit saved the city. I get Matt values life above all else, but in the next episode, he barely does anything to stop Frank from killing, so I don't know what you want me to say here. The finale does end things off in an interesting place, which makes me excited for the next season, but I hate that it was such a messy journey to get there. Overall, Daredevil Born Again is a messy product in the best way possible. It comprises of the weakest aspects of Daredevil, which for most other shows would be their strongest aspects. Every actor is killing it with their role, the cinematography is unique and different enough to stand on its own from the old show, and the ending, while a bit slapped on, is spectacularly written and different for a Daredevil story, and opens the door to a gripping season 2. However, the show also suffers from a middle meandering plot, repetition of a lot of season 3's beats which just can't be replicated let alone surpassed, some pretty wild excuses to have Wilson win, not treating the Netflix cast with a lot of respect, and not giving Matt any meaningful character interactions outside said Netflix cast. I really hope season 2's production does go a lot smoothly and we get some quality Daredevil content again, not just the show and studio bending over backwards to give us that quality. So yeah, it's good, but it could have been better. Not the best MCU Disney Plus show yet. That title still belongs to Loki. So, in the end of the day, I'd probably give Daredevil Born Again a nice high 7 out of 10. Anyway guys, that's gonna be all from me today. Tell me, what do you guys think? Am I too harsh on this new series, or are some of my criticisms right on the money? What did you think of the Netflix series and Born Again? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, let's have a discussion. Thank you guys so very much for watching. Be sure to like if you like, subscribe if you haven't already, hit that notification button to be part of the team, leave a comment down below, slap a cow, and with that, I will see you in another universe. Goodbye, my Rangers.